Good evening, everybody. This is Rob Packard. I'm president of Medical Device Academy. We thought we'd do a little short webinar for you today. This is just going to be an overview of some of the webinars that we've done on 510K. The 510K submissions to the FDA, a lot of companies don't know how to do them or just aren't, because they don't do them very frequently, they don't feel comfortable doing it, and they have trouble because the regulations have gotten much tougher over the last few years, particularly since the refusal to accept process was initiated a couple years ago. So I'm going to cover give you a brief overview of a couple of the webinars that we've recorded, give you a little glimpse into a new one that we're recording tomorrow that'll be a live event. Tomorrow's event is going to be the FDA pre-sub meeting process to explain how you use the pre-sub process to help you with 510K submissions. But the first thing I wanted to cover is this particular slide shows my first 510K clearance letter that I ever received. So back in 2004, I started my first job as a QA/RA director of a company called Z-Medica, and my first 510K submission was this particular 510K. It was a special 510K, so it's not quite as difficult to get a device modification through the FDA as a traditional 510K. But I wanted to note here, my first try out of the box here, this was something I was really proud of. My submission date was March 23rd, and my clearance date when they actually gave me the 510K letter was April 14th. And that's about as good as you can possibly do for a 510K submission. But the key to my beginner's luck, if you will, was simply that I organized everything exactly the way they asked for it. You go to the guidance document and you follow the guidance document verbatim. And that's the key to all regulatory submissions. It's give them exactly what they want in exactly the order they want it. Don't give them more, don't give them less. Just give them exactly what they asked for, organized the way they want it. And the FDA has really gone overboard to emphasize that's what they're looking for in everything they're doing now. So the first 510K webinar that we recorded was on 510K project management. And what's really, I think, unique about the way that I manage 510K projects, and it's actually also the way I manage CE marking and Canadian medical device licensing submissions, is I focus on making sure that all of the project is managed as per a table of contents. So I'll have a table of contents that summarizes what's in each section of the submission, and then I use that table of contents as my working project plan, and they indicate when each section is going to be completed, who's going to be completing it, and what the status of that is. And I even color code it. So you're constantly looking at the table of contents, and I use that as my template for a project plan. And so that's a lot of what I talk about in this particular 510K project management webinar. And this was just recorded a few weeks ago. But the things that we talk about here are the things that everybody struggles with at the beginning of a 510K project. Identify the classification of the device. Make sure you identify appropriate predicates. You build your table of contents. You get all the sections lined up. Here's what we're going to have in our submission. You put together a team of people that are going to write your 510K sections. You do your performance testing to show safety and efficacy, and you may even have a pre-sub meeting. So in this particular webinar, you're going to get a lot of information about how to do those early things at the beginning of a 510K project: classification, predicate selection, putting together a team, and planning your performance testing, whether it's benchtop or animal testing or even a clinical study. Throughout this presentation, you're going to see a bunch of hyperlinks. I do that in all my presentations. I provide hyperlinks that take you either back to the source of information on the FDA website, the Europa website, the Health Canada website. I also send you to blogs that I've written or other webinars that I've recorded. So if you're looking for information, a lot of these links provide you free information that's in a blog somewhere, like this particular one here on FDA device classification. There's another one here. This is giving you actually a link to the CDRH or FDA registration listing database. And then this one down here is giving you a link to the FDA TPLC database link. So this particular slide here is taken from that webinar on 510K project management and tells you how to identify the product classification, and it tells you several ways to do it. Here's another slide from that same presentation. It talks about predicate selection. And so it goes through, number one question is and these are the questions the FDA actually asks. So when a reviewer is looking at your submission, they're saying, is this a legally marketed device that you've selected as a predicate? Because what a lot of people don't realize is you might have a great 510K summary letter, and you might say, this is a perfect fit for us, but it might also be a product that was recently recalled and no longer is sold on the market because there were some problems with it. And that's not the one you want to be selecting as a predicate for obvious reasons. The next thing that you want to look at as a reviewer is, does the device that was selected as a predicate have the same intended use or indications as the subject device for your submission? And if there's any differences, that sometimes creates a problem. That's the first question they're looking for. So you can't take a device that's intended for one thing and use a predicate that has a different indication for use. They have to have the same indication for use. And if they don't, then you're going to get a non-substantial equivalence letter, or just a flat-out outright RTA letter, or a refusal to accept letter. The next question on their flowchart, they're looking for technological characteristics. If you have different technological characteristics, like one device is using electrical power and the other device is using pneumatic power, that's okay, but what are the issues of risk for safety and efficacy that different technology creates? And how are you going to evaluate whether that's acceptable in your design validation? And then finally, did you demonstrate that adequately with the data that you provided in the substantial equivalence section and the performance sections? And here's the actual flowchart that's from the new guidance document that the FDA published back in July of last year. I think it was, I want to say July 24th, but I might be off on the day of the month, but of 2014. And it's a flowchart and has these steps. So the first step, is it a legally marketed device, and does it have the right indication for use, and then does it have new technological characteristics? If it does, have you validated those adequately? And it just takes you through all the same questions that I had on the previous slide. But here is the hyperlink to that guidance document. A lot of people haven't read through that. And in that guidance document, not only do they give you this flowchart, but they also give you a new template for your 510K summary and your substantial equivalence section, of course, as well. This is another element of that first webinar, and it's the table of contents. So I explain how to create a template for your table of contents. You can actually download one for free from my website. Everything's organized in a certain way because I'm trying to follow the e-copy guidance document, and so I tend to use a volume for every single one of the 20 sections, and then documents within each volume. And then you have the RTA checklist, and I provide a hyperlink here for the RTA checklist. So you get three different guidances here. This is my own internal one where I give you templates, but this is the e-copy guidance from the FDA, and this is the RTA acceptance checklist. Going on to the second webinar that I recorded, this is on, I'm sorry, this says project management, so it should say indications for use. So the indications for use webinar that I recorded, that one covers where would the indications for use appear. So the indication for use is section or volume 4 or section 4 of your submission, but we have a 510K cover letter. It appears there. You have the indication for use section. You have the 510K summary. It appears there. You have a declaration of conformity section where you're filling out, I think it's FDA Form 3654, so it appears on those and in the summary reports. It shows up in your executive summary, your device description, your substantial equivalence, and it even has to appear actually in your instruction for use or your user manual. It has to be in there. That's something to look for. So those are all the places where your indications for use appear, and that's why the indications for use is so critical. It's also why that's one of the first documents I create. For those of you that are trying to wonder, well, like, how do I fill out an indication for use? The FDA actually has a form for it, and it's changed over time. This is the latest version of it. It was published back in, or released back in August of last year, and so it's got 4 sections. and I walk through each of the 4 sections on how to fill out each section. So the first section is the 510K number, if you have one, so it probably will be not applicable, or don't have one yet, to be determined, unknown. There's several different words you could use there. The next one is the name of the device, so you want to use your brand name here. And then this section here, we're looking for a statement of the indication for use. And the last section is it prescription use, over-the-counter, or both? And that's critical. And you want to make sure that whatever your predicate is has the same checkboxes as well. If you need any help with 510K submission or you're looking for a quote, here's my contact information. But please take a look at the website, so medicaldeviceacademy.com. There's a link right on the homepage to take you to tomorrow's live webinar. It's going to be on the 510K pre-sub meetings or FDA pre-sub meetings. And we're also going to have that recorded, so even if you miss the live session tomorrow, you'll still get the recording, you'll still get the native slide deck, and you'll also be able to hear the question and answer for the people that actually did participate live. So we hope you're able to do that, and thank you very much for your time.